Hello, my name is Keith Bogart, and I'm one of the instructors here at I&E. And if you're watching this video, it's because you're thinking of pursuing our CCNP Routing and Switching Bootcamp, and you have some questions. Let's start with the most important question. Why should you attend I&E's CCNP Routing and Switching Bootcamp? Well, probably the most important reason I can think of is that by attending our bootcamp, you'll have the opportunity to have dedicated learning. When you're doing your own self-study, there's all kinds of things that can distract you. An hour that you planned on doing self-study can stretch into 3 or 4 hours with tons of distractions. When you're attending our bootcamp, all that stuff is gone. You'll have 7 days of dedicated learning without all the distractions, where you can be heads down in this routing and switching technology. Another highlight of attending our routing and switching bootcamp is instant answers. When you have questions during your own self-study, where do you go if you get confused or stuck? Most likely you go to a blog or online forum somewhere where you might have to wait hours or even days to get an answer, and hopefully the answer that you get will be clear and not ambiguous. When you attend our Routing and Switching CCNP Bootcamp, you'll have a dedicated, knowledgeable instructor right there, ready and willing to answer any questions that you might have at that time. Another benefit of attending our bootcamp is the opportunity to have instructor-assisted labs. As the instructor is going through testing you and giving you this information, he'll be doing lab demonstrations that you can work on as well. Now, in addition to that, once a topic has been finished, you might be given a lab that's just 3 or 4 high-level bullet points. Configure OSPF between these two devices. Configure these VLANs between these 3 switches. And the objective is to test to see if you can retain and use the knowledge that you've just learned. And so you'll be given a certain amount of time to accomplish that lab, and at the end of that time, the instructor will go through it and show you how to actually do the lab in case you got stuck. And of course, you'll get the benefit of interactivity by attending a boot camp, something you don't have when you're doing your own self-studies. Interactivity with the instructor and interactivity with the other students sitting around you. So what can you expect by attending our CCNP boot camp? Well, you can expect long days. You probably know by this point that there's a lot of material that you need to know to pass your route, switch, and TSHOOT exams in order to get your CCNP certification. So it will be long days in order to give you the level of information that you need to pass those certifications. In addition to that, you'll have lectures and lab demonstrations. The instructor's not just going to sit there for 8 to 10 to 12 hours in a day just hitting you with one PowerPoint slide after the other. In order to further emphasize the material, there's going to be whiteboarding, verbal explanations as to how this stuff is used in the real world, and the instructor will frequently get on real routers and switches and demonstrate how to configure, monitor, and troubleshoot the technologies that you need to know. You'll have do-it-yourself labs, which I previously described as labs with high-level bullet points that you are given your own independent time to work on. Try to see if you've retained the knowledge, see if you can build the lab from scratch. And of course, there will be verbal quizzing from the instructor. This is just one of the many tools that the instructor can use in his tool belt to test for understanding, to see if you've retained the knowledge. So at the end of any given section, the instructor might direct a question to you to see if you can answer it. Or that question might be something that's relevant to something you learned hours or even days ago, just to bring up the old stuff to make sure it's not forgotten. So what are the prerequisites to attend our CCNP Routing and Switching Bootcamp? Number 1, you should be at least 3 to 4 months into your own self-studies. This is not designed for someone who has just passed their CCNA and now is the very first thing they're going to do in an attempt to pass their CCNP. You should be at least 3 to 4 months into studying on your own. Now that could be studying switch, route, or a combination of the two, ideally. But you should have some study time before you take our bootcamp. Also, you should have a valid CCNA routing and switching certification. Hopefully not something you achieved 5 or 6 years ago that you completely forgot, but something that's still fresh in your mind. So based on that, hopefully I've answered all of your questions, I've whetted your appetite, and I will see you at our CCNP bootcamp.